Warcraft can be a pretty serious universe. There are tons of dramatic epic battles and harrowing stories of pain and climactic earth-shattering events which have immense effects on the world. And then you have the Goblins. The history of the Goblins is the absolute antithesis to some of the more serious subjects in Warcraft. The lore I'll be talking about today is all canon and is some of my favorite stories ever told on Azeroth, and most of it has to deal with the Goblins and their immense love of gold. But Goblins weren't always at the top of the economic food chain. Like most races on Azeroth, they started out with very humble beginnings and dealt with a foe you might be familiar with. Thousands of years ago, the Goblins were enslaved on the island of Khazan by their Zandalari masters. Now, when the trolls first arrived to the island, they discovered an incredible ore called Khagamite. This valuable resource is something they would use for their shamanistic rituals, so they paid the Goblins with shiny trinkets and other random things to put them to work. As the Goblins worked, they realized that there was an incredibly immense amount of the ore under the island. So they decided that maybe enslaving the Goblins would be a much more practical idea. For thousands of years, the Goblins were forced to suffer in the Khagamite mines, harvesting the precious green ore for their troll rulers. But little did the Zandalari know, Khagamite was no regular ore. The dust the Goblins inhaled from the ore had the incredible ability to expand their intelligence. From deep within the mines, the Goblins crafted ingenious gadgets and gizmos to overthrow their troll rulers.
I am science! I am genius!
I'll take him out.
What?
Prepare a mecha chicken!
Have I got a bomb for you? Run for it!
The battle was a decisive victory, and now the intelligently emboldened Goblins created a bustling city on the island of Khazan. They built their metropolis above ground, but there was also an underground city called the Undermine, but we have never seen that one in-game. Once the Zandalari were either killed, fled, or enslaved, the Goblins started to turn on each other. Most of them split into various groups called cartels. Many rose and fell, but the prominent ones that have stood the test of time are the Venture Company, the Steam Weedle, and the Bilgewater. These coalitions feuded with each other during battles called the Trade Wars. But these wars were not the traditional wars you'd expect. It was messy and violent skirmishes that erupted all throughout the city.
How generous!
Say hello to my little friend!
I am the little friend. Say hello.
We know that there was at least 4 total trade wars, and the final war was called the Peace War, which was actually the most violent one. Although there were many wars, all of them had the same result. No goblin actually won. It was all just needless violence in the pursuit for power. Eventually, the cartels made a truce and decided to battle it out in the economic arena instead. Also, the Khajiite deposits under Kazan did not last forever, and as the supply ran out, so did their intelligence, leading their inventions to be rather unreliable, which became a staple in goblin engineering. The cartel we know most about in Warcraft lore is the Bilgewater. The former trade prince was called Prince Maldi, but this prince had gotten a bit soft over the years and started to let his guard down. A recipe for bankruptcy in Goblin society. Like a financial shark with razor-sharp teeth, an up-and-coming businessman named Jaster Gallywix exploited this weakness. Gallywix played the long game and bought out all of Maldi's staff and replaced them with his own mercenaries. He bought out his manor, he bought the store Maldi rented his jewelry from, and he also destroyed his fleet of trade ships.
You gotta be kidding me!
But wait. Maldi did have a daughter called Nessa, which Gallywix had fallen madly in love with.
It's beautiful!
Then asked her to marry him when they first met. She refused.
You think you're better than me? You think you're better than me?
So he subsequently exiled both of them from Kazan and arranged for Maldi's accidental death.
This one wants to be the big boss. Sorry, Bob. The position's been filled. By me!
Now, Gallywix isn't a monster. He still keeps in contact with Nessa by sending her paintings every year of him enjoying his lavish riches he rightfully stole from her father. And all of this lore comes from Gallywix's self-help book, Trade Secrets of a Trade Prince. And really, the book is just 15 pages of actual content and 300 pages of old newspapers, but sorry, no refunds.
All hail the greatest trade prince on Azeroth! Me.
For 20 years, Trade Prince Gallywix dominated the business landscape of Bilgewater Port. Gallywix ordered his workers to dig as deep as they could into the earth to rip out as much of the remaining Khajiite as possible so they could make his new profitable drink, Kaja-Cola.
Drink Kaja-Cola.
While digging, they were the first people to ever discover Azerite on Azeroth. Azerite being the literal crystallized blood of Azeroth that is immensely powerful. But, Gallywix isn't a geologist, so he just thought it was just a shiny rock, and he fashioned it into an orb on his cane, and didn't bother telling anybody about it until the events of Battle for Azeroth.
Thank you for your hard work and dedication. Unpaid overtime is approved for all.
But Gallywix wasn't the only one making money moves. One of his former proteges has been taking steps in stealing his position. And that goblin is the player character. You see, how the player character is able to do this is they're able to disrupt Gallywix's bottom line by cornering the market on aluminum manufacturing. What this does is it degrades Gallywix's supply and ultimately undervalues Gallywix's trades. They're able to declare the character really means that they balance their equity and their ability.
The sun has set on this mortal world, fools. Make peace with your end, for the hour of twilight falls!
Suddenly, boom, a World of Warcraft expansion just came out, and Mount Kajaro just erupted. Also, there's a bunch of pirates here that Gallywix hired to kill the player character. The Goblins of Kazan took this a variety of ways. Many panicked, some just kept partying, but the smart ones took advantage of this travesty.
Who's ready to make some money?
My favorite example of this is Vinny Slapchop. He is an entrepreneur who is trying to make a profit by selling rocks from the volcanic explosion. The same explosion that is going to leave the island of Kazan in ruin.
I see great profit possibility on the horizon. All of Bilgewater Port's assets are about to flow to me.
But Vinny is small fish compared to what Gallywix has brewed up. Conveniently, there's only one ship in Bilgewater Port, and it's Gallywix's yacht. He charged citizens a ludicrous amount of gold for a spot on the boat, so only the rich goblins were able to escape from certain doom. And in a panic, most of these goblins didn't read the fine print of the deal, which stated that the survivors on the boat are now contractually obligated to be his slaves.
Ready my yacht! We ride with the tide, and only the most wealthy and fit will be welcome to come with us. We shall sail for distant Ajara. There I will forge a new trade empire, one that will crush the Steamweedle cartel, and I shall carve my likeness upon that distant land's mountains. All will pay tribute to me.
Before Gallywix and his enslaved crew could reach the sandy shores of Ashara, they found themselves caught in a naval battle between the Horde and the Alliance and were utterly destroyed.
So nice of you to rescue me. No hard feelings, right? We'll be on our way to our new home in Azara before you know it. Despite the bumbling interference of you-know-who.
The Bilgewater goblins found themselves on the nearby conveniently named Lost Isles, and needed to find a way to escape. Coincidentally, the goblins weren't the only ones stranded on this island. The Horde had established a foothold on the Lost Isles, and needed the Bilgewater goblins' help to find some sort of precious cargo the Alliance had. Player character goes, kills an Alliance, gets on a boat, and...
Yo, what's up? It's me, Thrall. You know, I love nothing more than when the Horde and the Alliance get together and are friendly. Because saving Azeroth is much more important. That being said, have you ever turned into a tornado and electrocuted hundreds of Alliance sailors before?
I see the traitor is here to rescue you, Warchief. How convenient. You think you're such a big shot, saving everyone and making friends with these orc savages. I'm gonna crush you. I'm the trade prince, me! I got a plan that's gonna get me off this island and make me the king of Ajara. Mark my words, I'm gonna get you. I'll get you all. Out of my way! Hold on, I think it's going too fast!
So this is the part where the narrative of our story starts to fall apart for gameplay reasons. What happens next is... you blow up a bunch of explosives that turn into a town, and then you control a giant shark with laser beams, then you fight Old God Empowered Naga, then you fight pygmy people, then you fight a bunch of zombified goblins, then you use rocket boots to fly into the mouth of a volcano, then you kill Turtle God with an RPG, which then erupts the volcano. Trust me, I wish I could give you guys context to all of these events, but there is none. And our story ends in the most perplexing way possible. How it ends is the player liberates all of the enslaved goblins, and with the help of Thrall, we defeat Gallywix.
Nobody messes with me! No! Uncle! I give! You guys are too much for me. I'm beaten. You've shown me the error of my ways.
Now, the incredibly confusing part is Gallywix gives up and Thrall just lets him continue to be the leader of the Bilgewater. You know, after Gallywix hired mercenaries to kill his own people, stole all their money, and then enslaved them. Now, I get it, the lore in the Goblin Starting Zone is not meant to be taken seriously, it's kind of like a cartoon show, but when you incorporate serious characters like Thrall into the mix, it kind of just leaves the viewer to be kind of confused and not really sure what's going on. Gallywix got what he wanted and turned Ajara into a bustling trade port and an industrial complex. The most notable things built are a giant cannon that still hasn't been shot yet, a complex highway, Gallywix's giant face carved into the side of a mountain, and his lovely pleasure palace, which includes a hot tub, and a place to golf. But my favorite addition is they just terraformed a whole bunch of Ashara and turned it into the Horde logo for no particular reason, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. But that's a good thing. Goblins are one of, if not my favorite race in WoW, because they are the epitome of one of the reasons why I enjoy Warcraft's lore so much. This universe's lore is at its best when it lets unique races and characters ham it up and do cool shit for the sake of doing cool shit. It's like a comic book. Yes, there is an underlying sense of logic that keeps things relatively grounded and cohesive, but at the end of the day, it's meant to be taken at face value. Like, why do we still use swords and shields when there's magic and advanced technology? Who cares? Accept it for what it is, because it's a fantasy world to get lost in. Like, how can you take this universe's lore seriously when there's a section where a bunch of little green people snort Adderall ore, which makes them suddenly learn how to craft a machine gun? Does that make sense? No, not really, but it's fun and unique. And at the end of the day, that is what really matters, and what keeps me and many others captivated by the story that has been told so far. But seriously, what is going on at the end of the starting zone? It makes no sense.
Now, I'm going to hit the sauna for some R&R. So bring me a frozen cocktail and some cocoa butter. Mooks, where's my cocoa butter? What part of cocoa and butter did you not get? Why is this cocoa butter so slippery? Yeah, get me a towel! Whoever bought the slippery cocoa butter is fired!